going to a place where the tough guys go and come out eating tougher. A place where a man don't show his feeling, a place where a man don't cry. They say I'm being punished and they say I can be reformed. Someday I'll return. Do you really think that this time it worked? You know all along it wouldn't. Oh, I'm prison bound. I did a crime one too many times. It's on the outskirts of town by the railroad track where the country moon shines. Oh, I'm prison bound. Tell my girl I'll be back one day. Oh, I'm prison bound. I may never know any other way. Well, they take away my freedom of expression or action. Like Johnny says, I walk the line with 3 eyes and a kite and a lot of talk. We'll lock up concrete and steel. Well, it's cold and it's clammy, man, it's colder than a pimp's heart. But I gotta do my time. There's a lesson to be learned here, but what a price to pay. You know, I may never learn. Oh, I'm prison bound. I did a crime one too many times. It's on the outskirts of town by the railroad tracks where the country moon shines. Oh, I'm prison bound. Tell my girl I'll be back one day. Oh, I'm prison bound. I may never know any other way. Any other way.
Oh, almost had it. Got it. Thank you, Mary. That's the joy of live gatherings. Welcome everybody. Welcome in person and online to the 5 p.m. liturgy. I'm Ben, I'm the pastor of the church. I will be the host of the service tonight here in gorgeous, probably just about to rain, downtown DeLand, Florida, and globally wherever you are at wearecollectivechurch.com, where you can connect, stay up to date on what's going on with us and us with you, in person and online, live now or later on, wherever your presence makes us who we are. If you don't want to be on camera, you can sit over on that side of the room. Liturgy means the work of the people. We say this every week. That means not the work of like an expert up here, me, or the people on the couch who rotate pretty frequently, but how it is that we work out our spiritual community together. That's our work. So here to help us do that work tonight, our liturgist, Kenny, the online host. So if you're online, please jump on the chat, tell Kenny that you're in. There's going to be conversations in the room tonight. I have a feeling that they're going to be great. So you want to be able to interact with Kenny. Kenny will share your voice in the room. Let him know. Participate in the service, all that good stuff. We also have Jamie O'Connell from the Dreka Theater. Hey, Jamie, how's it going? We've got Waylon Neese from the Neighborhood Center, also on the liturgist couch tonight. Now give him a hand. Awesome. That was good. You guys are good. It was a slow build. We almost didn't get in before we got both of them into that one applause. Thank you. We also are going to have Ginny Beth on the couch up here. In just a minute, we can give her her own hand right now. That's awesome. We are very glad you all are here. Our artist in residence, Fred Wilson, with us as always. Good to see you, Fred.
Nice to
We're going to
see you.
talk about justice.
Sure are.
We're going to crash a county council meeting, aren't we? But we'll get to that in a little bit. If you came here tonight spoiling for trouble, you found the right place. Yeah, we're going to go crash a county council meeting. That's going to be on Tuesday. I'm going to be wearing a clergy collar. It's going to get mayhem, so stand by. We do have hot coffee at the bar. It looks to me like that's Katie Bryant, a young Katie Bryant behind the bar. How about a hand for Katie? Woo! All right, yes, all right. So if you didn't get hot coffee, get some of that. If you or a family member would like to be a barista, talk to Heather and Marianne. They're coordinating things. That'd be awesome if you'd help us out. The point is, we all are Collective Church. Jamie, why don't you remind us what that means to us with our community statement?
Okay, we value highly the metaphor of journey. We're different people from different places and backgrounds representing an intergenerational community, and we've traveled different paths. So we agree not to make assumptions about the person across from us, next to us, or in conversation with us. We challenge ourselves to be sensitive, knowing this community includes a diverse group of people, from lifelong followers of Jesus to people who are just now open to the idea that God might exist. We strive to avoid offense, ask good questions, articulate and explain our responses. We don't assume fluency in Bible, spirituality, or church language because we believe the message of Jesus is not for Christianity, but for humanity. So we do everything in the spirit of love and grace.
Awesome.
Amen.
We read that every week. We've been singing that since Easter. We've been singing that every week. I want to encourage you guys to sing, but the truth is you're trapped because Freddie and I are going to sing. We've got microphones, so we're going to sing. And I know that Brandon and Mary, who are also classically trained musicians, who can sing louder than Freddie and I through microphones, they are going to sing from the back. So you guys are trapped. So I can just encourage you to sing along. You'll have more fun that way. So.
Travel different paths. We're beautiful people with messy pasts, so have no fear, no judgment here. Whether you believe in Jesus or don't believe in anything, something you can teach us. You belong, no right, no wrong. Solidarity helps us to find some peace in the great unknown. You don't have to be alone. Leaning into grace, help us make a place with an open table where no one's turned away. We'll love without why. No one asks you why. Find
thinking, yeah, but they have a choir of thousands there in person, and I'm just alone here on my computer, just with my small watch party of 15 or 20 friends. There are only 20 of us here, and we're singing that beautifully, you guys. That was really, really cool. Thank you. I don't know what we're supposed to do next. Oh yeah, we are Collective Church in the room and the online folks that we just talked about. Kenny, who's with us?
Well, we have people from all over the place. We actually had, also pulling double time like me, Jess Garrett was in the chat a little bit ago.
Well, my goodness.
But representing other parts of the United States, Jay's on in Boone.
Hey Jay, hey Sue.
He said that he's really looking forward to being back in the room with us next Sunday.
Awesome, as are we, Jay.
And Dottie dropped in and said hey all the way from Maine.
Yeah, hey Dottie. Very good. Yeah. Well, and yeah, you guys feel free to let folks know if you'd like them to join in and they can't make it on Sunday nights here in person. So we've said it, we've sung it, we've connected online. Kenny, how do we practice this week?
So our weekly practice begins in your inbox. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the email and check the box for the rundown. Then you can pick which groups you want to see within the rundown, like Collective Yoga, which is on Monday, or Collective Cares, which is on Thursday. You can customize your dashboard for both communication and practice that way. In 2016, Collective launched one of our most popular community groups, Pints and Parables, with partner Peter Rollins. The hope was to allow the disruptive power of parables not to deliver clear meaning, but to explode our ideas of singular meaning by engaging with these stories and often the conflicts that they reveal in community. Until May of last year, it was a staple of our practice, but due to COVID, Pints has been on hiatus for over a year. Until now, well, until August 4th. Coinciding with the end of Heather's internship at Collective, she will be hosting Pints and Parables at the table. Not only is this a chance to share time, a meal, and meaningful discussion together, but it's also a chance for you to help us resurrect one of our practices for a new day.
And our hope, and you guys can probably understand this, because many of you who have been at Pints and Parables maybe at its best, and I can think of some of the huge gatherings at Persimmon Hollow. I can think of times we had 25, 28 people outside of Half Wall, and diverse groups of people, robust conversation, civil disagreement. You can think of that. Probably a handful of you in the room also can think of Pints and Parables at its most frustrating, where it's just another collective discussion group in a different location that's either built around getting drinks or food. Our hope is to make this more than another sort of inward-focused group and reclaim one of the things that we do uniquely, I think, and do really well, which is public theology. And so the emphasis would be on inviting new folks. And this is going to be crazy now, because you guys are church people. I don't mean any offense by that. But the idea would be that we would invite people to Pints and Parables without the agenda that they join us on Sunday night here. And I know you're like, yeah, but we're trying to grow the church and get more money. Yeah, but if we want to invite people into safe conversations, we can't have that same ulterior motive that traditional churches have. So the hope has to be that we know people that aren't interested in church but might want to have a conversation about theology, about values, about philosophy, and honestly about the fact that as we engage a story, there's never any one singular meaning. We want people who are looking for credible voices. We're wanting people who don't want church, who don't want religion, but who trust you. And I know that that's scary, but Pints and Parables is about you guys cultivating networks of people who trust you, and you bringing them into a conversation that you can trust. So that's when it's worked the best. That's what we hope happens, and we'll have more on that in the next weeks as we get ready for Pints and Parables.
So please join us on August 4th as good friends, food and drinks at the table for the work that Parables will do in us. Faith's Housing Committee is calling on all faith members to join us in attending the Volusia County Council meeting next Tuesday, July 20th. Faith will be gathering outside the County Administration Building at 9 a.m. There will be a brief prayer and folks will enter at 9:30. The Faith's purpose at this meeting is to discuss a proposal to provide $900,000 to Atlantic Housing Partners, which would add 216 units of housing in Daytona Beach, which would be affordable for working families and seniors. Several Faith members will participate and make public comments during this portion of the meeting. This is just the kind of project that a county-wide housing trust fund could make real if established by the county council. Your presence is power, and we need that power to make positive change in our community, so if you are able, please join Faith this coming Tuesday. And if you're looking for a way to support Collective in this month of help or beyond, one way is, again, by donating snacks for both Collective Kids and Collective Cares. Whether it's a Sunday night with the kids in the back or a Thursday evening with the Cares crew, we're doing hungry work here, so your donations would be very appreciated. I've been telling everybody they should reserve a ticket for this week's Art and Soul for a couple weeks now, but this week we're fortunate enough to have Jenny Beth in the room with us tonight, not only to tell us more about help boxes, but also give us a glimpse of what the window out front is going to look like this coming week. So joining Ben on the main stage, Jenny Beth Joyner. Applause, please.
I almost didn't have time to set my soda down to welcome you. So, Jenny Beth, thanks again. This is the second or third time you've come through. If you guys don't know, Jenny Beth is the proprietor and our neighbor at the Create Space next door. And as a part of that is helping connect and do some programming for Collective. So Jenny Beth, tell us what you're excited about around kind of the word help, the practice of help, or the invitation to help, and then how is that showing up in these help boxes with Art and Soul?
I just want to go back and say I love the word of the month theory and behind it. I love it because I love to be able to really meditate on a word or a practice. And so being able to kind of spend time on these words has been great. And help is a word and a practice that I really resonate with as a human. And I feel like I always have. Service, helpfulness, just lending a hand is something that's really important to me and valuable. So when I found out help was the word for this month, I was super excited. Got to talk with Kenny and with Heather about what would we do for Art and Soul. And this help boxes kind of idea was brought up. And I thought, well, we've got a couple different options that we can do because we want people to have opportunity to do different types of art, something that they feel like they can do or they can challenge themselves. So we do have a couple options. So we have these cute little, we call them treasure boxes over in the Create Space, but we have these little wooden boxes that you will be able to paint or decoupage or kind of just in some way create however you want to. So mine I did today, and it has help on the front of it. And you can put little notes or collect some money that you might want to share with an organization or a person. The other option kind of took me back to elementary school, which was doing little origami boxes.
Nice.
I feel like I did these constantly in school when I was trying not to do things that I needed to do. So,
which is why you have the joy of doing what you do
yes,
now
exactly.
for a living, absolutely.
So I definitely am not an origami wizard by any stretch of the imagination, but a little box is easy enough to do. We have lots of really pretty papers. And we'll show people how to make the origami boxes. So if that is your choice, you could do both if you want to. But really excited.
Very cool. Thank you. Now, and tell us a little bit about the upcoming window art.
Yeah. Really excited to be able to.
There it is.
Yeah, excited.
Oh,
that's the help boxes. Yeah. So excited to do the window. So this is my my idea for the window that I'm going to do tomorrow out here to update the kind window. Albert Schweitzer, one of my favorite kind of philosopher theologians, and like I said, kind of the purpose of life being service and compassion and help for other people really spoke to me. And then I love the illustration of hands as help. So I'll be excited to put that up tomorrow.
Awesome. So if you guys want to swing by tomorrow and say hey to Jenny Beth, if you're downtown, come by and wave. And on a larger scale, Collective needs tenants. We're talking about sort of sustainability. We need tenants and neighbors to pay the bills, and we've always preferred for those tenants to be missional partners, cool, creative startups and entrepreneurs, and community benefiting, common good work. And so I want you to understand, Jenny Beth's business helps us. Her mission and her success helps us. Her community networks help us. Her passion and the practice of her art and her community development help us tremendously in the culture of our organization just by being next door, by these kind of programming partnerships. and in ways that we can't even quantify, in ways that we don't even know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny Beth, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
So there are going to be ways, I think, in the future, and I want you guys to stay tuned, that you can help Jenny Beth to be successful. Obviously, if you haven't been to the Create Space, go be a patron, go make something, go figure out what it is, recommend things to your friends. We're going to continue to work with different partnerships with Jenny Beth. She's going to help with some branding and some signage stuff coming up. But we're excited to partner with her. And this is sort of a great example, we said, of the sustainability campaign. And I want to know if you guys can feel this. We've been talking about this for 3 weeks. July 1st, those things went out. Some of you guys got postcards. We sent the email. And it could feel heavy. I get that. Like when you have to face, the music and look at the bank statements. We've all been through that. But we set out 3 weeks ago crying for help. And we still are. We still are. We're very much in real need. And what's happened is we've ended up celebrating all of the amazing things that we already are doing and that we're already doing and have been doing really well. It's like we cry out, we need help, sustain us, right? We need help, sustain us. And God responds, look at what has always sustained you. That's kind of what's happening in this series. As we're going, hey, we know that the way we've organized ourselves doesn't work. It's not sustainable long term. Help. And part of that practice has been, okay, let's look at what has sustained us. So we're in the sustainability campaign. We're trying to sort of course correct after COVID. We've been through transition after transition. And effectively, the point is this: we've got to double our monthly income in the next 6 months to be sustainable against our budget. That sounds like a huge ask. And it does mean that we're going to have to give more as a church. And that's okay. That's me increasing my giving this week. I'm going to do that. That's bringing more people, right, who are going to give, who believe in what we're doing. Bring more people along with us and remind ourselves in them that good work requires attention and resources. However, I also want to say that this gap, it feels tremendous. It can feel overwhelming. This gap is not all on us. So tonight we have with us from the Liturgy Theater, venue coordinator Jamie O'Connell. Jamie, are you a Star Wars fan?
I feel like this is a trap.
It absolutely is. That's why I gave you no warning. You're totally right.
I've never seen any Star Wars movie.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Some things you just keep to yourself.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you what just happened? In the 1960s, somebody would have said, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And she would have said, I'm not sure. And the whole church would have gone, "Oh my God!" And this we said Star Wars, and everyone was like, "No! Healing!" All right, so the reason I asked Jamie is I'm worried that some of us see this huge deficit in this sort of timeline, and I think we feel like Princess Leia to your Obi-Wan. Like, help us, Jamie, you're our only hope. It's this iconic scene where Carrie Fisher cries out to it's Obi-Wan. Anyway, it can feel that way, right? Because none of us are responsible for like booking and managing and generating revenue using the venue. That's Jamie's area of expertise. We know we have to bring that in. So there's a sense of like, you're our only hope. But if you've been with us last Christmas, you would know that we're not a church of hero worship, but of guided practice. We said at Christmas, Jesus isn't our hero who does it for us, but a guide who shows us how. We don't expect you to be the hero in terms of pulling us out of this sort of financial situation. What we want to say more than that is that we trust you to guide us and to help us make the theater help our church. And because you may have heard, we are a collective church, and your presence makes us who we are. We trust you. We believe that you can help us. And so to symbolize this partnership, we've got these cards, if you guys saw these, and Bill and Joy were passing these out Friday night at the market. Anybody here from the market Friday night? No? Okay, if you're online from the market, hey, glad that you're with us. Let Kenny know. We'd love to know if our pamphlets worked. We have more. There's stacks of them, so if you want to hand those out. And part of the symbolism is that neither of these things can work on their own. For Collective to survive, the Drika has to make this revenue. And so part of our mission now is figuring out how it is that we support Jamie to do that. So Jamie, how can we help you to make us money and to create partnerships and to serve DeLand in the next 6 months?
So things like the cards like we did on Friday, taking those anytime you can and handing them out at certain events or wherever you go. Sharing, especially if you're on any community groups, I know that people are constantly on there looking for spaces for a shower, for a birthday party, for weddings, for anything. We can do a lot of different things here, which is really awesome about this space. So if you see people asking about that, make sure to post on there, our page, direct them to our Drika page, Facebook page, or Instagram page. Those are probably some of the biggest things, and just letting people know.
Awesome.
Getting the word out.
Yeah, and there's an upcoming comedy night, right, specifically?
Yes.
So June 30th, we are going to have next week, there will be cards. That's what? Got it. I'm not my brain, okay? My brain does what it wants sometimes. Love me anyway. So this comedy night is coming up, and this is the kind of thing that we hope we can start to generate. Not just, oh, thank God, Collective pays the bills, but as we've always done, Collective is a part of creating something in our community that adds value. And what we've always said is that comedy adds value, no matter what. Even if it's not our taste in comedy, it's a critique. There's prophecy in comedy because it helps us see ourselves, it helps us tell the truth about ourselves. So it's so cool that we don't have to do anything to help this startup other than to help it, other than to show up if you love comedy, tell people if you want people to come. Bill?
Is this going to be a series?
We hope so. So we've got to have people show up in order for it to be a series. So there will be another card like the one in front of you coming out this week that'll have Drika on one side and just the comedy thing on the other side. So we're going to try and get a bunch of those out this week. There's already some posters up. So you understand, just like Jamie said, you know how to do the promo, do the sharing, all that kind of stuff. So anything else you'd want to add, Jamie?
I want to talk about the comedy show really quick. The really cool thing about that is, like you always talk about, if we are out there in the community, like we're drawing in those kind of people that resonate with us. And it was really awesome when Amy came to me and said that she wanted to do this. She was looking for a space where she does comedy shows all over Central Florida, and she wanted a space where anybody could come. That everybody felt welcome, and it was amazing to me that she had that vibe, because that's exactly what Collective is. So it was like the perfect matchup for this space, which I thought was amazing. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, if it goes really well, she wants to continue to do it every month. So
and I'm not going to be ready this month, but I swear I've got a Google Doc with a handful of bullet points for a stand-up routine, and at some point I will come and do 5 minutes if it continues. Wayland's good for it too. You'll come do 5, won't you?
Oh, we'll do it together, baby.
All right, Wayland and I are going to do 5 together. All right, Kenny, that's what I got. Thank you. Bring your tomatoes. Put the cage up.
So it's incredible how many ways we can support Collective. So be it supporting the work Ginny Beth is doing at Create Space, or promoting Drika so Jamie can get all kinds of cool things booked here. It's really awesome. But remember, the point is to practice. So from the rundown to weekly practice to giving, make your plan now to do what you might not want to do later on this week. Like maybe getting tickets for the comedy show, or getting tickets for Art and Soul, which you can do on Facebook or through the link tree in the email. Of course, if you need any help with any of that, I'm more than happy to help you right after the service at the bar. And we've talked a lot about practicing this week. Let's practice together now.
Awesome, thanks, Kenny. We're going to sound the singing bowl like we usually do and sit together for a few minutes. And gently return to our attention. So let's take a few cleansing breaths. Let's take 3 cleansing breaths. We're going to give plenty of time, because some of you guys take a longer breath than others, but 3, as slow as you're comfortable. All we asked of ourselves was 3 breaths, and our minds were ready already to be elsewhere. Remind your mind to come back to your attention, to come back to your breath, to find a place at the heart of your own awareness that feels like a center or a ground. No judgments, just notice. Gently return to your breath. Feel free to use the drone footage as best supports your sense of quietness, solitude, and the survey of your inner landscape. May the silence tonight allow us to contemplate what we want the ceremony to accomplish for us. Humility, spiritual rebirth, strength for what lies ahead. Relax. It's all right. Sit silently for about 3 minutes.
Spent 20 years trying to get out of this place. I was looking for something I couldn't replace. I was running away from the only thing I'd ever known. Like a blind dog without a bone, was a gypsy lost in the twilight zone. I hijacked a rainbow and crashed into a pot of gold. can't go home? Who says you can't go back? There's only one place that comes from their own. Just a hometown boy born a rolling stone. Who says you can't go home? Who says you can't go back? I've been all around the world, and as a matter of fact, there's only one place left I wanna go. Who says you can't go home? It's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Who says you can't go home? I went as far as I could, try to find a new face. There isn't one of these lines that I wouldn't erase. Left a million miles of memory on that road. With every step I take, I know I'm not alone. You take the home from the boy, but not the boy from his own. These are my streets, the only life I've ever known. Who says you can't go home? Who says you can't go home? There's only one place, they call me one of their own. Just a hometown boy, born a rolling stone. Who says you can't go home? Who says you can't go back? Been all around the world, and as a matter of fact, there's only one place left I wanna go. Who says you can't go home? It's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Who says you can't go home? It's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Who says you can't go home? Been there, done that, and I ain't looking back. Been a long, long road. It's like I never left. That's how the story goes. Doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you go. It's a million miles away, it's just 10 miles up the road. Take it in, take it with you when you go. Who says you can't go home?
All right, we're going to read Psalm 107. But we're going to do it kind of like a, what's it called? Like a read through, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of like that. So here's, let's play wiffle ball. I'm going to be the coach. Let's see. I'll be the coach and I'll be the narrator. Kenny's going to be the assistant coach, and he's going to be one of the main readers, and then you guys are each going to be a reader. So we need Waylon on the first chunk, right? And then how
Do
does
we get to be referees?
you referee yourself.
Oh.
So if we,
that's
To begin with, I
awesome.
know we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
So if any of us are having problems with what we need to read, if you look up there, the scripture is over here, but over here it says the name of the person reading whatever section.
Fantastic.
So just correlate the numbers, and we should be able to do a smooth read through.
All right, we're going to give it a shot. So here, let me tell you guys what's happening. So I'm narrating, and then each chunk that they're going to read, we're talking about crying out for help. So one of the things that's beautiful about the Bible is it preserves what's called an internal critique, and it also preserves an internal cry. So you wouldn't think, from modern Western marketing, you wouldn't think that the Bible would allow critique within itself, right? To say that some of these concepts are kind of bullshit, right? And then also the cry, God, where are you? How long? Why have you forsaken me? They preserve the human experience of having to cry out. So we're going to read through the psalm, and each of the sections they're going to read is a particular kind of crying out. The sermon tonight is called The Shape of the Cry. So each one is sort of a shape of human experience that leads us to the place where we have to cry out. So I'm going to kind of narrate it. You'll get the sense for how it's going to go. And you'll know the key words to listen for are some people. So when they start each section, it'll go, some people went out on the sea on ships. Some people were far from home. So listen for those key words, and then each of these sections kind of name our human need to cry out. You guys okay? You'll follow along. Freddie, you know you're reading, right? Did I tell you that?
No.
Cool. Awesome. See, this is why we practice in real time. Okay, just follow along. You'll get it.
Yeah, again, it'll be up there. If you
It's
look
the
at Ben's
Bible.
prompter,
It
your
makes
name will
sense.
be where you need to read.
It'll make sense. All right, give thanks to the Lord, for God is good. His love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. Those he redeemed from the hand of the foe, those he gathered from the lands, from the east and the west, from the north and the south. Some,
Nope,
who is that? Who does
that's
that go to?
Waylon. So make sure that you're keeping the slides.
Oh, yes, now I get it.
Yeah.
All right, Waylon, you're the first some.
Some wandered in the desert wastelands, finding no way to a city where they could settle. They were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distresses.
Some sat in darkness, in utter darkness, prisoners suffering in iron chains, because they rebelled against God's commands and despised the plans of the Most High. So he subjected them to bitter labor, they stumbled, and there was no one to help. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distress. He brought them out of darkness, the utter darkness, and broke away their chains. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind, for he breaks down gates of bronze and cuts through bars of iron.
Some became fools through their rebellious ways and suffered affliction because of their iniquities. They loathed all food and drew near the gates of death. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distress. He sent out his word and healed them. He rescued them from the grave. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them sacrifice thank offerings and tell of his works with songs of joy.
Some went out on the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the Lord with wonderful deeds in the deep, for he spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. Those are still me.
Yeah.
They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' end. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress.
One more.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, no. Hence all the practice.
He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them to their desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them exalt him in the assembly of the people and praise him in the council of the elders.
He turned rivers into a desert, flowing springs into thirsty ground, and fruitful land into a salt waste because of the wickedness of those who lived there. He turned the desert into pools of water and the parched ground into flowing springs. There he brought the hungry to live, and they founded a city where they could settle. They sowed fields and planted vineyards that yielded a fruitful harvest. He blessed them, and their numbers greatly increased, and he did not let their herds diminish. Then their numbers decreased, and they were humbled by oppression, calamity, and sorrow. He who pours contempt on nobles made them wander in a trackless waste. But he lifted the needy out of their affliction and increased their families like flocks. The upright see and rejoice, but all the wicked shut their mouths. Let the one who is wise heed these things and ponder the loving deeds of the Lord. The crowd rebuked them and told him to be quiet. That's not right. That's from Psalm from last week. All good, no worries. So the Psalms preserve what it feels like to cry out for help, to be in need of help. And that's what I want to make sure we touch on in this series, is that Collective tends to sort of think about things. And I want to make sure we don't just sort of shore up what we think theologically and practically about help, but that we experience the cry. And we're orienting ourselves and reflecting around help. We've seen both in asking for help to keep the church going, examining the ways that we've been helping and will continue to help, like through the neighborhood center, the theater, the LGBTQ community, our work with faith, affordable housing, all of this stuff. Anyway, in these ways, we're calling for help. And we're doing some theological practice and reflection around help. So tonight, I want us to be inspired by the psalmist to cry for help, to express and connect the human experience in which we call for help. In kind of four ways, at least to me, as I read the psalm, four ways show up. Help, I'm lost. Help, I'm blind or bound. Help, I'm mortally sick. Or help, I'm in mortal danger. Lost, blind or bound, mortally sick, mortal danger. Is there anyone in the room that cannot relate to at least one of those? Cool. So the psalmist nails it. Right? It's almost like if the psalmist is a comedian, they're throwing this really wide net and going, are these relatable subjects, that I could maybe talk about, that people... So the psalmist captures the context of the human experience in which people tend to not intellectually consider their beliefs about or positions on help, but where we cry out for help. Where'd my phone go? We cry out for help. I want to share this because I don't think that we can talk about help. We can speak of help and especially crying out for help and miss the world's cries for help. The world is crying out for help right now. And if you can't watch the news, I understand. I can't either. But Cuba is crying out for help right now. Haiti is crying out for help right now. In Florida, that has 6.3% of the population and 20% of the new cases of COVID-19, and the tragedy in the Surfside community, Florida is crying out for help. And we are at the heart of Florida, and a community of faith is supposed to be a balm to the ways that its parish is hurting. Our parish is hurting. I'm grateful for this prayer that's adapted from Reverend Lisa Ann DeGrenia Coronado community out in New Smyrna. So I'm gonna sit and share this with you. I'm gonna pray this. If you want to pray this, you can. Otherwise, I would invite you, if you're not the praying type, I'd invite you to hold yourself open and just let these words affect you. God of peace, hear our cry for your beloved and our beloved in Haiti, for your beloved and our beloved in Cuba. The winds of injustice are howling, hurling them to and fro. They can't get a footing. They can't get their bearings. They are drowning in violence and in need. Presence of peace, hear our cry. Pull them up for air. Hold them together in grace. Anchor them in help and provision. We call on this spirit of help and redemption to create new life from this chaos. We call on you, source of light, consciousness, that of God in everyone and in all things. Light the way now with hope and with help. And for whatever of these words was true for us, amen. The psalmist is brilliant in drawing us in with human suffering. It's like second only to death, right? Who can't relate with the fear of mortality? Who can't relate to human suffering? Who can't relate to feeling far from home, to feeling stuck, to feeling sick, to feeling in danger? And so the psalmist throws this wide net to catch us all, to draw us into the universal human need for help, the human need to cry out. So with which of these, we're going to dive into this discussion. Let's get growing. With which of these human cries for help do you most identify tonight? And then if you're willing to share a little bit, I'd like you to share with just the folks around. It's not a huge crowd, so let's break up into a few groups and we can talk for maybe 6 or 7 minutes. With which of these human cries for help do you most identify tonight? I should have put them on here. Maybe Brandon can put them on in the next minute or so. So it's far from home, blind or bound, mortally sick, or in mortal danger. So these sort of shapes of our crying out for help, with which one do you most identify? And why? And it can be stories from your past, it can be where you are right now. But in terms of how crying out has sort of shaped your sense of who you are, your understanding of spirituality, with which of these sort of 4 human cries do you most identify? Does that make sense? Any questions? All right, house rules apply, no me monsters. You also don't have to be in a group if you don't want to. Take about 5 minutes. Start now. Go. Thank you. All right, they're up there for your consideration. We are going to discuss just as soon as you all finish those sentences. Oh, it happens. I had to put it in there because I'm the most guilty. Okay, so which of these human cries for help with which do you most identify? How many of you guys it led to like a near-death experience story? Okay, Heather. Anybody else? How many of you connected with a far from home? All right, a few of us. How many of it was like literal versus how many like not literal, more metaphorical? Okay, so a couple of both. We've got blind and bound. How many of you guys said that that was what you related to? Okay. More blind, okay. And then there's one more that I can't think of. Oh, mortally sick. How many of you guys? Okay. Who wants to share? Yeah, Jerry. Okay, being alone. Yeah. Okay. The anguish of being disconnected from other souls, the anguish of being solitary. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? What else? Yeah, Bill.
My sense was whenever I'm with certain clients, sometimes I feel blind. I feel like Helen Keller, feeling my way.
Gotcha.
I hope I say and do the right thing. And I find whenever I cry out for help to God, I get help. There's either enough light to save with that person or something happens.
Yeah.
And my sense is that those who, like the nobles, hey, I'm rich, I got mine, the hell with everybody else.
Yeah.
Not that we have any of that going on in this country right now. But those people end up getting the consequences of their behavior. I don't think God punishes them or anything. But eventually, comes around.
Yeah. So consequences of blindness.
My sense is if I let God be God as opposed to me being God, things seem to work out. Like if I think I have the answers for this client because I'm the answer man, I'm in deep shit. I'm
Yeah.
playing God.
Yeah.
So it's just, choices, consequences. I don't see it as God punishing anybody if they don't do it right. I see it as God saying, hey, look, I'm here to help because I am God and you are not. If you acknowledge that, then I can help you.
Yeah.
And sometimes God helps me when I don't ask him.
We'll get into consequences in just a second. Jamie, I wanted you to share. I thought what you said about being far from home was really interesting, and I think there are other people that can definitely connect with that. Share kind of what you said, if you would.
Yeah, so I was saying that in a more metaphorical
Yeah.
sense, not literally, but because I actually live at home with my parents, but because of the toxicity in my home and past traumas, learning to heal from that I've been kind of on a journey over the last couple of years, learning from that and growing from it. So I always have this, I always feel like I'm in this weird in-between space and I'm not really sure where to go because I do literally live there right now, but I'm so far removed from it mentally, so.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I think there are, for people who live in a home in which they don't feel at home, it is very real. I think especially as we, these things aren't separate, right? What are we talking about every week now? The affordable housing crisis. We're going to talk with Waylon in just a second about the work for people who are home, housing insecure. These things are connected. They're not just either a literal housing issue or like a metaphorical spiritual issue of kind of being close to home. They're the same. So there was one more hand up. Maybe I don't want. Yeah, Marianne. Far from home. Yeah. 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 Good. Well, and I think, it's, you said as you got emotional, it's okay. And I want you to hear us say, it's okay. Your tears are welcome here. Your grief is welcome here. And we want you to talk about him. There's a reason we have a Day of the Dead service every year. We ask people to send in pictures of the people they love. We know that we need to talk about the people we've lost. Sure. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for finding your way with us. Thanks for trusting us to hold that season. It's really special. So, man, we've already done all the heavy lifting, but we're going to reflect on this. I want to talk to Waylon for a second, and I want to make these connections just a bit more explicit. So, help, I'm lost. Help, I'm lost, far from home. And we've said, maybe it's literal, maybe you miss your home, maybe it means something more symbolic. Maybe it's you're hungry, maybe it's you're thirsty, maybe you feel unsafe. These are kind of things that are connected with being home, so you feel disconnected. Those are things related to home. Even last week, Rajni talked about how hungry and homeless kids are in our neighborhood and in our nation. They called out in their distress. So these people are lost, they're far from home. They called out in their distress because maybe home is falling apart. I'm divorced, many of us are. Many of us have experienced a version of family that didn't work. That version of family ended and life went on. It didn't last. So that version of home, that orientation of home is now over, and what's next? What now? Many of our LGBTQ community have made home here. Home with Collective Cares, home with Dan, home with Rachel, primarily because they were so unwelcomed, no longer safe in their own homes, no longer at home. No longer able to be themselves. We sing every week, no one has to hide. They had to hide in their own homes, and so it wasn't home anymore. The neighborhood center answers the cry. So the cry for help, obviously you've heard a ton about affordable housing. We're organizing for affordable housing. The neighborhood center is direct action. They're answering the cry for many people in many different forms of housing insecurity. Waylon is the shelter coordinator. What are you now? What are you?
The director of operations.
So he's the main guy. Waylon is, yeah. I love you.
Am I supposed to look that way?
No, you don't have to look that way. You can look at me. You can look wherever you want, actually.
All right.
Yeah, you're totally cool. So how is the neighborhood center addressing these cries for help from those who are home or housing insecure?
Oh, well. Ooh, that's loud. Oops.
You're good. He'll figure it out.
Homelessness and homeless insecurity, food insecurity, all of those things, it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Everybody thinks there's this quick, easy solution and answer. And to some extent, there kind of is once you cut through all the bureaucratic red tape. All right, this is, I'm going to help me stay focused, please.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but, there is no one simple answer. On one side, you have the preventative piece, right? Because some people just get in a hard time, and or they are in a cyclical pattern of living paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes it takes many years to break out of that, or it could just be generational. But we have help.
So they cry out for help. How do you help them?
Correct.
What does the neighborhood center do?
They cry out for help, and what we do is we provide prevention assistance, whether it be through our food pantry or direct rental payments or direct utility assistance or diapers or feminine hygiene products, whatever it is. These are all the things that most of us take for granted. there's a whole world out there. 40% of Volusia County's population actually is crying out for help for these simple things that every single one of us, for the most part, I would say we take it for granted. Yeah. And so we're able to distribute that to them, to keep the families in their homes, to make sure that kids don't have to continue going from school to school to school. Because guess what, people? In the long run, 20 years from now, there's going to be impact.
Yeah.
Kids may not understand the impact right now, but there will be impact later. So if we can prevent that, that's what we want to do. Then the next thing that we're doing is obviously we're providing shelter. We're providing housing. You know, all of our housing our actual housing programs, the people that live with us, we house approximately 200 people nightly, men, women, and children, families, whatever. Not 200 households, but 200 people in general through all of our housing programs. But it goes beyond that. You know, we're rapidly rehousing people, where we're putting people into permanent housing solutions of their own and paying for them at a reduced rate and a tapered down effect over the course of, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a year, so that people can then get that one up just to get started. You know how much it costs to get into a place right now?
It's crazy.
If you're looking at
It's
$4,000,
insane.
$5,000, $6,000 just to get started. Who has that?
Yeah.
I just bought a house. It took Donna and I 7 years to save up the money so that we're not in this ridiculous amount of debt, which we still are.
Right.
But
just a little less now.
So think about a mom with 3 kids who got messed up during COVID or is fleeing domestic violence. Right? This is what we're doing. Or someone, hey, let's here's the why, right? We always want to have the why should we love. Well, yeah, it's not just we should love just because. We need to have a why should we love. And there's the why, because Jesus told us to do it, because God told us to do it all the way back in Deuteronomy. The sick and the poor will always be with you. Take care of them, right? Mm-hmm. So that's our why. I did get a little sidetracked, but
No. You stuck it on the passion. It doesn't really matter what you say. When COVID hit, we said, hey, through whom can we do the most good? And we decided the neighborhood center. Do you understand why?
Thank you. And you guys have poured us out with donations, and you've done small drives here and there. And that's the cry, right? That's our cry for help. Yes, we get government funding. Yes, we get grant money. Yes, the community supports the neighborhood center. Stetson supports us. We're constantly doing stuff. But if for that, but if for you, but if for, hey, let's, maybe someone's listening right now that has some really deep pockets, we would not be able to do the work in the community that we do.
Yep.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
We say
it's
every
about
week,
doing the work in the community.
Yeah, we say every week, good work requires attention and resources. That's not exclusive to the church. Good work, right?
Yes.
Wayland's job is to pay attention, to do the work of helping people who are housing and home insecure. It also requires resources, and that's part of the way that we contribute. Jerry.
I understand neighborhood. I've lived here 40 years, so I love neighborhood center. And there's also a place called House Next Door. Is it part of your scope or vision or goal to give people not just the tangible resources, but to guide them to links for financial literacy, for home counseling, abused person, a place to get counseling, and not just the tangible stuff, but
The holistic approach.
Yeah, like to form it. So if you missed it, just so they can hear Jerry's question. Jerry asked, how is it more than just sort of meeting an immediate need? How do you also give them resources to kind of take the next step, to better themselves, to do whatever? So yeah, go for it.
Right, and that's the biggest part of it, is the taking that holistic approach, because it's not just putting someone in a house, it's not just giving them money, it's not just giving them food. You do have to have those life skills. You do have to sometimes retrain people how to make their beds, brush their teeth, take a shower, and put the dish back in the right frickin' place. All things that we take for granted. But all of these things are very important. So it is. You're right. It's teaching them the life skills. It's linking them with places like the House Next Door and SMA to get either grief or some other traumatic counseling, or to get mental health medication. One of the biggest things that we're dealing with, and we're not going to go down that road right now, or to get them into substance abuse treatment, to provide AA and NA meetings 5 nights a week, to provide all of these little things that can help put somebody on a trajectory for success. Because 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, good, but what are we doing to really help them to live beyond that? And we at the Neighborhood Center try to take that holistic approach and link people to all these different things, job counseling, computer sources, life skills, resume building. Again, all of these things that a lot of us take for granted, we are doing at the Neighborhood Center, because we understand it's not just about money and a roof over your head. It's about what's going to be sustainable.
Whoo, ladies and gentlemen, Waylon Neese. Yeah, Bill.
Well, a quick question. Very few times in my life have I been kind of stunned and not knowing what to say. The other night I was talking to a friend and was very upset about all the money Biden's giving out, free government money, you know. And I was trying to explain why, and they said, well, shame on them, just let them get good jobs. And I was like flummoxed. I was like, what the hell do I say after that? What would you say to somebody who said that beside?
Question is, how do you respond to people whose critique is economic, that this is the problem of just the government's giving away all this money that's creating sort of these problems of homelessness? He's asking Waylon how to respond to that.
Wow. That's a deep one, because I kind of ran the middle of the fence on this. I'm not one way or the other. But when there is a cry for help, it is the government's responsibility to respond. It's our responsibility to respond. As a matter of fact, if we did a better job responding, the freaking government wouldn't have to, excuse my language. That's the reality. If we took better care of our people in our community, the government wouldn't have to. And so I don't exactly know if I answered your question, but I do believe that, yes, in a time of need, thankfully the government can be there to support its communities. Yeah.
Are there tangible things, obviously, as there's need, as we have the opportunity to do specific fundraisers like we did a couple times in COVID, and thanks to the folks who are in the room who encouraged us especially to dig into stimulus checks, those of us who didn't need them to give back. Are there other tangible things that we can do in the near future to help support the Neighborhood Center? Isn't there the Wine to Water is coming up?
Yeah, Wine to Water is coming up in August, and I'm gonna have to be honest and humble myself. I forget the date, but it's
it's August 2nd, because Freddie and I are playing
Okay,
at
I was
it.
gonna say the first Monday in August, but I can't remember the date.
And I think Collective's like a main sponsor this year, because
Yeah.
Freddie and I are playing music at it. So
Yeah, so sponsor or come and participate in the Wine to Water event. It's going to be at the Elusive Grape on Monday, August 2nd, and there's going to be some live music. There's going to be phenomenal food, good wine, good beer, good fellowship, all the things that Jesus loves, and
just church. Don't worry, it's just church.
and it
Bless
goes to
you.
support the local community. Another thing that Jesus loves.
If you start
So-
choking now, we're going to be scared.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And, come in and if you have time, talent, and treasure, it's not always just about money. It's also about talent. It's also about treasure, right? Because sometimes having the talent and being able to come in and work with people or just volunteer your time, that's a part of that holistic approach we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we can do. But at the end of the day, support the events that we have. We have a few events over the course of the year, or just do a random drop-in instead of going, to Goodwill or Salvation Army. Great organizations, don't get me wrong. Go to your local thrift store. We have one of the highest class thrift stores that you will ever find. It's more like a resale store, and but it's actually priced at the thrift store because I'm constantly trying to get her to raise her prices, but that would be a disservice to the community.
If you guys are
So-
sitting here and you're like, man, this is so weird. I feel like I've been in church 3 weeks in a row and different people have been talking about thrift stores. Can we get a credibility check from Dan Hensley, who's always promoting how great the thrift store is?
Neighborhood center is my #1 place, especially for jewelry.
That's right.
Symmetry.
So I get my
So you can support Collective Cares, support the neighborhood center, do the thrift shopping thing. Awesome.
Suits of Auburn.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't see those at good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I know that you guys are just desperate for a sermon on Psalm 107, but you're gonna have to wait. That's gonna be the sermon next week because it's 6:18 and doesn't anybody have time for that. So this is how we're gonna do it. This conversation has been a phenomenal sermon. I wanna connect two things, just because I think it's really cool to have Freddie sitting next to Waylon here. How many of you guys have heard this, and I've been worn out on it because it gets overused so much, but you've heard the idea that it's not enough to pull people out of the river. You have to go upstream and find out who's throwing them in. I want to paint as clear a picture as I can for you that Waylon and the neighborhood center are pulling people out of the river. Every day, they're pulling people out of the river of housing insecurity, and the work that we're doing with Freddie and with Faith is going up the river and stopping people who are throwing them in. What we're doing with Faith is going 2 generations down the road when we already anticipate 16,000 affordable houses short, and saying we know that that additional load on the inability of the neighborhood center already to keep up with the demand is untenable. That's not sustainable, not just for our economy, not just for our county, but that's not sustainable among human beings. We can't live that way. We can't live so out of sorts with ourselves and our neighbors. Let's close with this prayer. I'm going to ask you guys to pray this with me just for a couple moments, and then we're going to come to the table. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Whatever that means for you, whoever the you is, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. As you think about tonight what your sense of being far from home means, literal or figurative, if you think about what it means for you to have struggled with mortal sickness in the past, as you think about what it's meant for you to be in mortal danger, as you connect with the experience of being held against your will, of being blind to what's ahead of you. This is the human experience of being in need, of crying out. As we come to this table, we receive the Eucharist, the table of Christ, the table of a selflessness that we celebrate even as we call ourselves to practice it. A symbol for us and for our tradition of the humanity of God, the materiality of our faith, a reminder that we are the body of Christ. And we as Christ's body to be broken, blood to be shed, the table of this unconditional belonging and transformative love is set for us tonight, and as always, it's open to us and to all people, and no one will ever be turned away. Sharon's going to come to serve you. When you're ready, come and receive the bread and the cup as we remind one another of the bread for the journey and the nourishment for the soul. Come when you're ready. and Los.
Making financial support a part of your practice at collectivegives.com. And make your plan to stay connected with us at wearecollectivechurch.com. You can update your preferences to customize your engagement with our community. For benediction this evening, some good words from Anne Lamott, excerpted from her book, Help, Thanks, Wow, The Three Essential Prayers. Prayer is talking to something or anything with which we seek union, even if we are bitter or insane or broken. In fact, these are probably the best possible conditions under which to pray. Prayer is taking a chance that against all odds in past history, we are loved and chosen and do not have to get it together before we show up. The opposite may be true. We may not be able to get it together until after we show up in such miserable shape.
The truth for the people. Let's bring our hands together as a symbol of our intention, first to our foreheads for clarity of thought, and to our lips for clarity of speech, to our hearts for clarity of action, so that in all that we say and do, love would be our first thought, our first word, and our first deed. Grace and peace.